I found $550,000 had vanished from my account. The transfer went directly into my brother's account. At Thanksgiving dinner, Grandpa made Mom go pale. Can you imagine finding out $500,000 just vanished from your bank account? Not because of some shadowy hacker, but because someone in your own family stole it. And then, at Thanksgiving dinner, your grandpa drops a bombshell that changes everything, making you question every single thing you thought you knew about the people you love. My name is Ethan Carter. I'm 31, and I track data criminals for a living. I've hunted Bitcoin fraudsters across 17 countries, helped the FBI recover millions, and testified in federal court 4 times. I know how to find money, no matter how deep it's buried in the darkest corners of the internet. But the biggest, most gut-wrenching robbery of my entire career? That happened right at my family's Thanksgiving table. It was 3 days before the holiday. I was at home in Denver, 3 monitors glowing with code, deep into a phishing operation traced back to Estonia. My sister, Sophia, called. Her voice had this particular brilliance about it that always made me suspicious. It was the tone she used when she wanted something from you, but she was trying to pretend she didn't. "Hey, Jordy," she chirped. Nobody calls me Jordy except her. "Listen, about Thanksgiving. Maybe you should skip it this year." I stopped the trace I was running.
What?
"Why?" I asked, my brow furrowed. "Oh, Grandpa's just been terribly fatigued lately," she said, her voice dripping with fake concern. The doctor advised him to avoid getting too excited. You know how he gets when you visit. He wants to stay up late, showing you his old maps, telling stories about Korea. She laughed, but it was hollow, almost artificial. "We're thinking of a nice, quiet getaway, just with a local family. My family lives in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I live in Denver. That's about 2,000 miles of extremely convenient distance for them." "Since when did Grandpa want quiet?" I challenged, already feeling a knot tighten in my stomach. "Since he turned 87, she said, her voice firming slightly. His doctor told him to minimize stress. That part could have been true. Grandpa George Carter, a decorated warrior, a retired civil engineer, and honestly, the only person in my family who ever truly listened to me, had been slowing down. But asking me to forego Thanksgiving? That just didn't compute. Then came the kicker. Sophia also mentioned that you should definitely save money on airfare. I know consulting pays well, but those flights from Denver aren't inexpensive. There it was. That was the real reason. Sophia had never cared about my finances in all 33 years of her life. The last time she even mentioned my money was in 2019, when she borrowed $3,500 from me for a business opportunity that turned out to be a multi-level marketing scam. She never paid me back. When I brought it up 6 months later, Mom told me I was being petty about money among siblings. "I'll think about it," I said, my voice flat. "Great. Love you.
Bye."
She hung up before I could even reply. I sat there for a long time, staring at my screens. Something felt wrong. This conversation, it followed the same pattern as the phishing emails I studied. The words were all correct. They sounded normal, but the underlying code, the intent, felt harmful. Slowly, almost gingerly, I opened my banking app. I navigated to the joint account Grandpa had set up for me when I turned 18. He'd invested $6,000. "It's for emergencies, Ethan," he told me. "You're smart with money, but this is just in case you ever need a cushion." I'd used it once, in my junior year of college, when my laptop died 2 days before exams. I paid it back within 6 months. Since then, I hadn't touched it. The balance now read $2,550.
That seemed about right.
The initial $6,000, minus the laptop loan, plus 13 years of low interest. But a cold dread was creeping up my spine. Something compelled me to view the entire transaction history. My stomach lurched, dropping like a stone. August 14th, 2024. Incoming wire transfer, $550,000. With love, Grandpa. August 15th, 2024. Outgoing wire transfer, $550,000. Destination, an external account, number 7392. $550,000.
Gone.
In 24 hours. The account now displayed $2,747. Someone had left just enough to avoid triggering a zero balance alert. A warning sign that would have pinged me immediately. My hands started shaking. I carefully set down my coffee mug as if it were made of glass and could shatter at any moment. I called the bank. I was transferred 3 times before reaching someone in fraud prevention. "Mr. Carter," she said, her voice sounding utterly exhausted. Her name was Patricia. "I'm showing that the wire was initiated using proper login credentials and two-factor authentication." "I didn't make that transaction," I said, my voice tight. "The IP address indicates Bridgeport, Connecticut. Is that an area you frequent?" "My family lives there. I haven't been there since July." "I see. And you are positive you did not allow someone to use this account on your behalf?" "Absolutely certain."
She paused.
I could hear typing. "Mr. Carter, we also have a document on file. You signed a power of attorney document on August 10th, allowing authority for..." More typing. "Linda Carter. Could that be your mother?" The room tilted. My head spun. I never executed a power of attorney. The signature matches our records. Then the signature is falsified. More typing. This time, it lasted longer. "I've marked this account for investigation. You will need to submit a formal fraud report. I'm giving you a link now. I'll also need you to authenticate your identity by answering a few security questions." The verification process took 20 grueling minutes. By the time I hung up, my coffee was ice cold, and the Estonian fishing operation I'd been following had vanished, most likely a quick server farm change. I opened the power of attorney form the bank had emailed me. It was a crisp PDF, professional, with all the correct legal jargon. The signature at the bottom looked undeniably like mine. I recognized the looping G, the strong vertical line on the J. But I knew I hadn't signed it. I have a very specific, almost paranoid habit when it comes to legal paperwork. I always make a tiny diagonal mark in the upper right corner of the signature block. It's practically invisible unless you know to look for it. A quirk I developed after seeing too many contract disputes in the tech world. This signature had no mark.
I zoomed in.
The ink pressure was wrong. Too consistent. This was a computer composite, probably generated by scanning and stitching together multiple signatures. Professional work? Yes, but not quite professional enough to fool me. My next step, tracking down that destination account number, 7392. Most banks only show partial numbers for security, but I had tools. 15 minutes of database queries and some clever financial APIs later, I had the full account details. On August 2nd, 2024, a Nathan Cole opened an account at First National Bank's Bridgeport office. I searched the name. LinkedIn profile. Investment consultant, 35 years old, Columbia MBA, founder of Cole Capital Management. A slick professional headshot, a man with perfect teeth, in a suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. And there, in his recent activity, excited to announce my engagement to the incredible Sophia Carter. Here's to new beginnings. The post was dated August 20th, 6 days after my money vanished. I navigated to Sophia's Instagram. It was public, of course. She never understood privacy settings. Her feed was a chronicle of devastation masquerading as leisure content. August 16th, a snapshot of crystal blue sea, white sand, palm trees. Much needed reset in the Maldives. Gray star paradise. August 18th, sunset over an infinity pool. Grateful for this moment. August 20th, a close-up of her left hand. A massive diamond catching the light. He asked and I said yes. We've been blissfully engaged ever since. I zoomed in on the ring. Emerald cut, at least 3 carats. Platinum band. Conservative estimate? $35,000. My $35,000. I took screenshots of everything. Created a dedicated folder. Then, with the same systematic accuracy I applied to corporate investigations, I began charting the money path. August 14th. Grandpa sends $550,000 into my joint account. August 15th. Money deposited into Nathan Cole's account. August 16th. Sophia posts from the Maldives. Flight records. At work, I had access to certain databases for valid security reasons. They showed 2 first-class tickets from JFK to the Maldives. Purchased on August 14th, travelers Sophia Carter and Nathan Cole. A cost, $20,000. August 20th. Engagement announcement. Ring purchased from Cartier Manhattan. Credit card data is surprisingly easy to find if you know where to look and have the right credentials. Technically, this was probably a legal gray area. I didn't care. The pattern was screamingly obvious. Sophia had somehow convinced Grandpa to transfer me money, probably told him I needed it for something, knowing he'd never say no. Then, she'd promptly transferred it to her fiancé's account and spent it on a lavish vacation and an engagement ring. But the power of attorney's signature still bothered me. That wasn't Sophia's style. She was impulsive, careless with money, yes, but she lacked the sophistication to fake legal documents. I opened the PDF again, examining the signature even more closely. The digital composite was good, but there was something else. Tiny variances in pen pressure. Minuscule changes in ink density. This wasn't just a scan, it was traced. Someone had traced my signature several times before generating the final version. I matched it to Mom's handwriting. She'd mailed me a birthday card last year. I'd kept it because her remembering was unusual enough to be significant. The capital letters mirrored. The G's downstroke, which curled slightly inward. The particular angle of the cross on the T. My mother falsified my signature. I leaned back in my chair, numb. Outside my window, Denver sprawled in the cold November afternoon light. Traffic flowed on I-25. People were going about their lives, utterly oblivious that mine had just exploded. My phone vibrated. A text from Sophia. So, you're absolutely not coming on Thursday, right? Just want to make sure Mom doesn't buy too much food. I stared at the message for a full minute. Then I typed, "Actually, I changed my mind. I'll be there." Her response was instant. "Really? Are you sure? I thought you said work was crazy right now." I'd never said that. "Work can wait," I typed. "Family is essential." 3 dots appeared, vanished, reappeared. "Okay, perfect. See you on Thursday." I booked a flight, packed my laptop, a portable projector I used for professional presentations, and printed all the evidence I'd gathered. Bank documents, wire transfer data, the falsified power of attorney, screenshots from Sophia's Instagram, credit card receipts, airline information. 47 pages in total. I placed them in a worn leather portfolio Grandpa had given me after I graduated college. The irony wasn't lost on me. On Wednesday, I landed at JFK, rented a car, and drove to Bridgeport through the freezing rain that makes November in Connecticut feel like the end of the world. I checked into a Hampton in 15 minutes from my parents' house and spent the evening putting together a presentation. Title slide, Family Investment Opportunity, a Case Study in Wire Fraud. Subtitle, How $550,000 Became $250. I practiced my timing. The full disclosure would take 12 minutes, with strategically placed pauses for maximum effect. I delivered presentations in boardrooms, testified in court, explained complex cybercrimes to juries. This should have been easy. It wasn't. These were the people I grew up with. My sister taught me to ride a bike. My mother drove me to robotics club every Saturday for 3 years. My father, who was never very involved, was still family. But they had stolen from me. Not just the money. They had taken my grandfather's generosity, his trust, his willingness to help me. And they had done it so casually, so easily. Thursday morning, at 2 p.m., I drove to my parents' place. Dinner was at 4. Mom had texted the schedule. Appetizers at 4 o'clock, turkey at 5, dessert at 6:30. Everything organized, everything under control. I parked on the street and carried my laptop bag up the front walkway. The house looked exactly the same as always. Cream-colored colonial, black shutters, the old maple tree in the front yard I used to climb as a kid. Normal. Innocent. Mom opened the door before I could even knock. "Ethan, you made it." She pulled me into a well-practiced hug. I'm so glad you decided to come after all. Wouldn't miss it, I said, my voice carefully neutral. She was wearing a beautiful cashmere sweater with pearl buttons, her hair professionally styled. Her grin seemed fragile, almost brittle. Sophia's in the kitchen. Nathan's here too. I don't think you've met him yet.
He's fantastic.
You're going to adore him. I followed her in. The house smelled like turkey, stuffing, and pumpkin pie. Grandpa was in his usual recliner by the fireplace, reading the newspaper, reading glasses perched on his nose. He looked up as I stepped in. His entire face lit up. There's my boy. I crossed the room and hugged him gently. He felt more fragile than the last time, bones more prominent under his cardigan, yet his grasp remained firm. How's Denver treating you? He asked, his eyes sparkling. Good, really good. Working on some interesting cases. Still catching the bad guys. Always, he said, smiling. That's my grandson. Justice comes first. His words hurt more than they should have. Sophia emerged from the kitchen, Nathan following her like an expensive ornament. She'd lost weight since I last saw her, the kind of weight loss that comes from stress, green juice, and not eating. Her engagement ring caught the light, throwing tiny rainbows onto the wall. Sophia hugged me too, and I could feel her stiffen slightly when I didn't pull away immediately. This is Nathan, she announced. Nathan, my younger brother, Ethan. Nathan extended his hand. Great to finally meet you. Sophia talks about you all the time. His handshake was strong, practiced like everything else about him. He smiled, made perfect eye contact, stood with his shoulders back and chest open. Alpha stance. Congratulations on the engagement, I said. Thanks, man. She's 1 in a million. He pulled Sophia closer and kissed the top of her head. She beamed. Absolutely glowed. Either she was a better actress than I'd given her credit for, or she'd compartmentalized the robbery so thoroughly she'd convinced herself it never happened. Dad was in the den, watching football on mute. He glanced up and nodded as I stepped in.
Ethan, good to see you.
You too, Dad. We didn't have much else to say to each other. We never had. Mom announced appetizers. We convened in the dining room. The table was set with fine china, candles lit. Picture perfect. Grandpa sat at the head, Mom and Dad on each side. Sophia and Nathan across from me. The conversation felt aggressively normal. Nathan talked about a recent golf trip to Scotland. Sophia prattled on about her new job at a marketing firm. Mom discussed her book club's latest pick. Dad remained silent, drinking wine faster than was appropriate. I waited. Finally, Mom got up. Oh, I almost forgot. Ethan, Grandpa wanted me to give you something. She went into the kitchen and returned with a business-sized white envelope, my name scrawled on the front in her handwriting. From Grandpa, she whispered gently, placing it in my palm. Don't mention the amount. He's a bit embarrassed that things are tight this year. I opened the envelope. Inside was a check. Pay to the order of Ethan Carter. $250. Written in my mother's hand, signed with Grandpa's slightly shaky signature. The room held its breath, waiting for my reaction. I looked at Grandpa. He was watching me with that warm, pleased face I'd known all my life. Thank you, I said, making sure my voice carried. This is very generous. Mom's shoulders relaxed. Sophia took a long drink of wine. Nathan checked his phone. We moved into the living room for dinner. Turkey carved onto plates, all the sides, serving dishes. Everything staged like a Norman Rockwell painting. Grandpa sliced the turkey while Mom directed traffic, ensuring everyone got the right portions. Sophia started a story about her Fiji health getaway from last month. The sunrise meditation sessions were absolutely transformative, she gushed. I feel like I'm finally learning to be present, to really appreciate the moment. Nathan nodded solemnly. She came back a completely different person, more centered, more herself. I wondered if he knew the retreat had cost me $20,000.
Probably.
He seemed like the type of man who scrutinized receipts. Mom caught my eye. Ethan, you should try something like that. All that computer work. You need to learn to enjoy life.
Disconnect sometimes.
I enjoy life just fine, I said, looking right at her.
Do you?
You're always working. Always so serious. Life isn't just about chasing criminals in cyberspace. The hypocrisy was staggering. Dad poured himself more wine. His fourth glass. Grandpa stood up, tapping his water glass with a fork. I'd like to make a toast. The table fell silent. I'm an old man, he began, his voice surprisingly strong. I've lived 87 years, fought in a war, built bridges that are still standing, raised a family. But one of my greatest joys has been watching my grandchildren grow into the people they're meant to be. He looked at me first, then Sophia. Sophia, you've always known what you wanted and gone after it. That determination will serve you well in marriage and in life. She offered a small, watery smile. And Ethan? His voice grew heavier with emotion. You've always been my quiet one. Thoughtful, principled. You don't take shortcuts. You do things right, even when it's hard. That's rare these days. My throat tightened. I wanted to help you take the next step. Buy a house. Start your own firm, if that's what you want. You've earned it. And I hope the gift I gave you will make that dream a little easier to reach. He lifted his glass to me.
To Ethan.
May you build something lasting. Everyone lifted their glasses. My heart was pounding. Thank you, Grandpa, I said, my voice cutting through the expectant silence. Thank you so much for the $250. His smile wavered. The table froze. What $250? He inquired, his voice laced with confusion. I pulled the check from my pocket and held it up. This check? The one Mom gave me before dinner? From you. $250? Grandpa's expression shifted. Confusion turned to something much, much deeper. Linda, what's he talking about? Mom's fork clattered loudly onto her plate. Dad, you're confused. You said things were tight. The gift I wired Ethan was $550,000. Silence. Absolute, deafening silence. Nathan's wine glass stopped halfway to his mouth. Sophia had gone utterly sickly white. Dad was staring at his plate as if it held the answers to the universe. Mom's face had crumpled into an expression of pure, raw desperation. Dad, you're not remembering correctly. Mom insisted, her voice rising. Too high. Your medication. The doctor said it can cause confusion. I'm not confused. Grandpa's voice rang through the room like a cold, sharp dagger. I transferred $550,000 into Ethan's account on August 14th. I received the confirmation email. I've saved it. He pulled out his phone, his hands trembling slightly, and began scrolling. Mom lurched to her feet. Dad, please. Let's talk about this privately. You're getting upset. Grandpa ignored her. Show me the account, Ethan. Pull it up right now. I had already taken my laptop out of my backpack. I opened it. In the flickering candlelight, the screen shone blue. I opened the bank statement and tilted the laptop so Grandpa could see. August 14th, $550,000 received by incoming wire. August 15th, outbound wire of $550,000 sent. Current balance, $2,747. Grandpa just stared. His hand moved to his chest. For a terrifying moment, I thought he was having a heart attack. Where did it go? He muttered, his voice barely a whisper. I looked at Sophia. She was weeping now, silent tears streaming down her face, mascara streaking her pale cheeks. Nathan had his hand on her shoulder, but he looked like he was ready to bolt. That's what I'd like to know too, Grandpa. I murmured gently. Mom stood, fists clenched at her sides. This is a family matter. We can discuss it later, privately. No. I opened a folder on my desktop. We're discussing it right now. I took out the portable projector, laid it on the table, moving away the mashed potatoes and stuffing to make room, and plugged it into my laptop. The white wall behind Grandpa lit up with my first slide. Family investment opportunity. A case study in wire fraud. Dad's wine glass slipped from his grasp. Red wine splattered on the white tablecloth like blood. People started standing up. Uncle Ryan and Aunt Laura, who had been silently watching from the corner. Cousin Chloe and her husband. Mom's sister, Patricia. They backed away, slowly at first, then quickly. We should go, Aunt Laura mumbled. This is between immediate family. They simply walked out. The front door opened and closed 3 times. Car engines rumbled to life. By the time the chaos subsided, just 6 of us remained. Grandpa, Mom, Dad, Sophia, Nathan, and I. I moved to the next slide. The bank transfer records, blown up to a size that could be read from across the room. On August 14th, Grandpa initiates a wire transfer for $550,000 as a gift to me. On August 15th, someone with access to the joint account sent $550,000 to Nathan Cole's external account. Nathan went stiff. Next slide. Sophia's Instagram postings, dated and timestamped. On August 16th, my sister posts from the Maldives. 2 first-class tickets from JFK to Maldives purchased August 14th, cost $20,000. Sophia made a sound like a wounded animal. Next slide. The engagement ring.
Zoomed in.
August 20th. Engagement announcement. Ring purchased from Cartier Manhattan. August 19th. Cost $35,000. Nathan stood up. I don't have to sit here and listen to this. Sit down, Grandpa instructed. His voice was soft, but it carried the weight of years. Nathan sat. I moved to the final slide. The fabricated power of attorney, my signature underlined. This document, filed with the bank on August 10th, grants Linda Carter power of attorney over the joint account. The signature is forged. Notice the differences in pen pressure here, here, and here. I used a laser pointer, the red dancing across the wall. The letter forms are in my mother's handwriting, not mine. Mom was sobbing too, but these were furious tears. You don't understand what we've been through. The medical bills from your father's surgery. Dad's surgery was covered by insurance, I told her, my voice unwavering. I checked. The mortgage is current. I retrieved the paperwork. You had no right, she shrieked. I had every right. I shot back. You stole from me. Next slide. An audio file. This is a voicemail left by Linda Carter on August 28th to John Harris, attorney at law. I obtained it through legal discovery after filing a fraud report. I selected play. Mom's voice filled the room, amplified by the projector. John, we already spent the first installment. If Ethan finds out, he'll go crazy. We need to paper this over. Can you help us create some kind of, legitimate explanation? Maybe a loan agreement or something. Then, the lawyer's terse response. Linda, this is fraud. I won't be a party to it. You need to tell Ethan the truth before this gets worse. Mom's voice returned, desperate. You don't understand. Sophia needed. The file clicked closed. Mom's expression was utterly devastated. I was trying to help your sister. With my money. You have a good job. You don't need. That's not the point. The words came out more forcefully than I intended. The point is that Grandpa gave me a gift. A life-changing gift. And you stole it before I even knew it existed. You forged legal documents. You lied to him. You lied to me. And you gave me a $250 check like it was some kind of generous gesture when you'd already taken everything. Sophia was openly weeping now, gasping for breath. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I just needed. The wedding's in 6 months. And Nathan said we needed to make the right impression. And I panicked. So you stole from me. It wasn't like that. What was it like then, Sophia? Explain it to me. She couldn't. Nathan stood again, but this time with a chilling purpose. Lose my number, he said. Sophia, all of it. This family, this drama, whatever this is. I don't do this. He walked out. The front door slammed. Sophia shrieked after him. Actually shrieked. Then she whirled on me, mascara smeared, face blotchy. You just destroyed my entire life. You destroyed it yourself, I said, my voice cold, when you chose to steal. I hate you. She grabbed her coat and purse. I hate you so much. She, too, fled. Her car roared to life in the driveway, tires screaming as she peeled away. Dad remained immobile through it all, staring at the wine stains spreading across the tablecloth. Finally, he rose. "I'm going to bed," he said to no one in particular. He walked upstairs. We heard the bedroom door close, a final, hollow click. Now there were just 3 of us.
Me, Mom, and Grandpa.
Mom was trembling, collapsing into a chair, her hands covering her face. "I thought it would be okay. I thought you'd never find out. I thought you thought wrong." Grandpa stood up. His hands were firm now, his face set in an expression I hadn't seen before. Anger. Betrayal.
Grief.
He took out his phone. Mom scrambled to grab his arm. "Dad, please. Please don't do this. Think about the family. Think about Sophia's future. Think about it." "I am thinking about it," he said softly, his eyes like steel. "I'm thinking about how I trusted you. How I called you before I made the transfer. Told you I wanted to help Ethan. Asked you to make sure he knew it was from me. That it came with love. And you took that trust and turned it into theft." He turned away from her, dialing. "This is George Carter at 847, Maple Drive in Bridgeport." He paused, phone to his ear. "I need to report a theft." Mom sank to her knees, hands clasped in a desperate prayer.
"Please.
Please don't do this. I'm your daughter. I made a mistake. Please." She began weeping, the kind of raw, guttural sobbing that makes your heart ache. The police came 18 minutes later. 2 officers, one older, one younger. Officer Martin Chen, 23 years on the force. Officer Rachel Kim, 5 years. I had prepared a folder for them, all the evidence ordered chronologically. They sat at the dining table, the turkey cold, the candles burned to stubs, and went over everything, slowly. "Mr. Carter," Officer Chen asked Grandpa, "do you want to press charges?" "Yes." "Are you certain? This is your daughter." "I'm certain."
He looked at me.
"And you, Mr. Carter? Ethan, do you want to pursue this?" I recalled Sophia's screams, Mom's desperate tears, Dad's abrupt retreat. I thought about Nathan's callous departure, the ruined holiday, the shattered family, the years of Thanksgivings that would never be the same. Then I thought about Grandpa's face as he made that toast. The pride, the love, the fact that he'd saved for years to be able to do something important for his grandkids. "Yes," I answered. "I want to pursue this." Officer Kim took notes. "We'll need you both to come to the station tomorrow to file formal reports. We'll also need to coordinate with a bank and possibly the FBI, since this involved wire fraud across state lines." Mom looked up, her face blotchy and swollen. "The FBI? Wire fraud is a federal crime, ma'am." She seemed to collapse in on herself. The cops left at 11 p.m. Mom had moved to the couch and curled up like a frightened child. I packed up my projector, laptop, and files. Grandpa walked me to the door. "Are you okay?" I asked him. He smiled, a sad, knowing smile. "Last night, before you arrived, your mother told me she'd given you my check. She said you'd thanked her. Said you were grateful things weren't as tight as you'd feared. Said the $250 would really help with your rent." The manipulation was astounding, and I believed her, he added, his voice hollow. "Because why wouldn't I? She's my daughter. I raised her. I thought I knew her." "I'm sorry, Grandpa." "Don't be. You did the right thing. It's her choice to live with." He placed a hand on my shoulder, the same hand that taught me how to tie my shoes, cast a fishing line, shake hands firmly, and look people in the eyes. "When you called and thanked me for $250 at dinner," he said gently, "I almost let it go. Almost convinced myself I was confused. My memory was faulty. Maybe I hadn't actually sent the full amount, because it was easier than believing my own daughter would do this." He took a deep breath. "But then I looked at your face and realized you were giving me the opportunity to see it, to truly see what they had done. You were saving me from spending the rest of my life as their idiot." My throat felt constricted. "Last night, you thanked me for $250, he added, his eyes full of pride. "Tonight, you proved you're worth more than any amount I could ever wire you." I held him, tenderly, because he was delicate, 87, and the strongest guy I'd ever met. "I love you, Grandpa." I love you too, Ethan. Now go home. Get some sleep. I drove back to my hotel through the November rain. At a red light, I checked my phone. Sophia had left 17 missed calls. Mom, 6. I ignored 4 voicemails. I blocked their numbers. The next morning, Grandpa and I went to the Bridgeport Police Department to submit formal reports and sign statements. Dylan Torres, an investigator with 11 years of experience in financial crimes, told us the case would take months to build, but it was strong. Power of attorney fraud, wire fraud, possible conspiracy. The evidence you've compiled is better than most of what we see from professional investigators. I am a professional investigator, I said. Just usually for corporations, not family. How does it feel? He inquired. Going after your own family? I thought about it. Justice. The repercussions were swift and widespread. By Monday, the story had leaked to local media, most likely from a police complaint or one of the family members who'd witnessed the Thanksgiving incident. Family Thanksgiving ends in theft charges, reported the Bridgeport Courier. Sophia's firm, a boutique marketing business that emphasized ethical brand creation, fired her on Tuesday. I know because she left me a voicemail, yelling about it. I didn't listen to the entire thing. My parents' church, St. Matthew's Episcopal, where they'd been members for 32 years, requested they step down from their volunteer roles on the fundraising committee. The official explanation was too much unfavorable attention. Nathan Cole updated his LinkedIn status to single and removed all images of Sophia. His firm's website erased his bio for a week before reinstating it with no reference to his personal life. The bank investigation discovered that Dr. John Harris, the attorney Mom had contacted, had reported their discussion to the State Bar Ethics Hotline. There was evidence he tried to warn her off. That testimony helped prove intent. In January, federal accusations were brought. Linda Carter faced charges of wire fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, and forgery. Sophia Carter, accessory after the fact, conspiracy. The FBI got involved because the wire transfer crossed state lines and utilized digital banking networks, which falls under federal authority. I gave a 4-hour deposition at a federal facility in Hartford, going over every piece of evidence, every database query, every screenshot. Emily Wilson, the assistant U.S. attorney prosecuting the case, with 14 years of white-collar criminal experience, told me it was one of the cleanest fraud cases she'd ever seen. Most families who steal from one another conceal it better, she added. Or sometimes the victim lacks the necessary abilities to fully document the incident. You basically built our entire case for us. I do this for a living, I explained. Just usually not against my own family. She smiled sadly. How does that feel? The investigator asked the same question. The answer was still the same. Justice. The trial was scheduled for August. Mom's lawyer attempted to arrange a plea agreement. I refused to sign any arrangement that excluded prison time. Grandpa supported me unequivocally. Mom eventually pled guilty to reduced charges, including 1 count of wire fraud and 1 count of forgery, and was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison, 3 years of supervised release, and full restitution of $550,000, plus interest and penalties. Sophia pled guilty to conspiracy, receiving a 12-month sentence, 2 years of supervised release, and an order to return the engagement ring. Nathan Cole had sold it the week after Thanksgiving. She had to buy it back at auction for $30,000, which she couldn't afford. She borrowed money from an aunt. The ring was then auctioned off under court orders, with the earnings going toward restitution. Nathan Cole was never charged. Prosecutors couldn't definitively prove he knew the money was stolen, but everyone suspected he did. He relocated to Boston 6 months later. Dad petitioned for divorce in February, citing irreconcilable differences and my spouse's illegal acts. The proceedings were swift and unpleasant. He got the house. Mom got nothing. I haven't communicated with any of them since that Thanksgiving. I blocked their phone numbers, emails, and accounts across all platforms. My father tried to reach out twice through intermediaries, once through Grandpa, once through my cousin Chloe. Both times I declined. I didn't want to reconcile. I didn't want apologies. I wanted them to learn that their actions had repercussions. That betrayal kills trust, and once shattered, it cannot be repaired. Grandpa and I now eat dinner once a month, usually via video call because Denver to Connecticut is a considerable distance. Occasionally, I fly out to see him. We don't talk about Mom or Sophia. We discuss his maps, his professional experiences, my job, my life. In March, he opened a new account and transferred another $550,000. This time, it arrived with a letter. Ethan, this is the gift I always intended to give you. Use it to buy a house, start a company, build something that matters.
I know you'll do it right.
Your mother asked me to do something wrong, and I was foolish enough to trust her. You showed me the truth, even when it hurt. That's the mark of real integrity. Love, Grandpa. I bought a home, a 3-bedroom Craftsman in a desirable Denver neighborhood, walking distance to a park. I now have a dedicated home office, a proper workstation for my investigations. I occasionally consider starting my own business, but Sentinel Tech treats me well, and I enjoy my work. The 2nd bedroom is for Grandpa to use when he visits. The 3rd is vacant. Perhaps one day it won't be. Last week, I received a handwritten letter from Sophia, 8 pages long, in a simple envelope with no return address. It started, "Ethan, I know you'll probably throw this away without reading it, but I have to try. What I did was unforgivable. I was selfish and desperate, and I didn't think about what I was stealing from you beyond just money." I read it all, and then I shredded it, watching her words disintegrate into confetti. Some people believe that forgiving is noble. Perhaps it is. But I'm not interested in being noble. I'm interested in becoming whole. And for me, wholeness meant removing the people who tried to chop me apart and sell the pieces. They took my cash. They tried to take Grandpa's gift. They almost succeeded. But I walked away with something they couldn't touch. This whole experience, it changed everything. My family, my trust, how I view people. I put my career on the line, my emotional well-being, to see justice done. Was it worth it? For me, yes. But I wonder, what would you have done in my shoes? Have you ever had to choose between family and doing what's right? Let me know in the comments below. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts.